Welcome to the Mojo for Musicians podcast from Manny Cabo Media, where we dig deep into today's top strategies to help you take your music career to the next level, along with real, raw, and uplifting conversations with industry professionals that are making moves, making a difference, and making the best versions of themselves to inspire you to do the same. And for all of our Mojo Maniacs out there, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, please be sure to give us a positive review on your favorite listening platform. Support for the Mojo for Musicians podcast comes from Stedman, tools for the studio and beyond, because your voice deserves to be heard. Sennheiser, inspired by music. And Cranium, scientifically designed products for bald, shaved, and buzzed heads. So get your head in the game and own your dome. And now, here's your host, Manny Cabo. All right, good morning, Mojo Maniacs. Welcome to episode, 65 of the Mojo for Musicians podcast, the source of inspiration for my community of artists around the globe. And I've got another killer episode today. Surprise, right? And one that's actually very near to my daily practices of meditation, self-healing, and essentially how I've been able to manifest my successes throughout this vast 20-year career of mine as an entertainer, voice personality, podcaster, singer, you name it. But I think above all, my principal reason for having this guest on the show is because I truly want to share with all of you out there how hard it is to make it in this industry, right? But not only that, but the true and immense power behind certain audio frequencies and how they lend themselves to this internalized healing that I call, and clarity above all, which is a foundation that we can all harness out there. And my guest today is a second generation, let me get this right, I worked on this, a second generation Reiki master and teacher who's been studying like personal development and mindset training for over 10 years. And in addition to that, has been practicing massage therapy, presence healing, and he's also an author. But overall, he's just a badass healing rock star. So let's welcome to the show the incredible talents of Zachariah Grace. What's up, Zach? And welcome to Mojo for Musicians, man.
Hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you taking the time to have me on here and
Me
be
taking the
able to
time,
share
of
in this way.
course. We were just talking about that behind the scenes. I know this is a last minute, kind of like a serendipitous meeting. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention how grateful I am for this connection in general, which came from our mutual friend, right? Who's also a fellow sound healer and owner of CLM Records, or Choose Love Music, which I love. That's right, Alexandra Tavia. So thank you, and a big shout out to you, Alex, for this amazing connection, man. But let's move on to you, bro. Where are you in the world right now?
Yes, I'm located out of Santa Fe, New Mexico,
Awesome.
in the southwest region of the United States, and originally from the East Coast, originally from Maryland, but my family moved here back in 2000, so I've been here for
So you got some nice
about
weather, needless
23
to say,
years.
down there, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead,
we,
rub it.
we
He's
have
like,
some
yeah,
pretty decent weather.
absolutely. Although, you know what, I'm not going to complain because in Jersey right now, it's my preferred season, which is the fall. I love the 60s, that 60, 65, sunny, chill, that nice brisk morning coffee weather, man. So I'm not going to really complain, but yeah, I know how beautiful it is down there, the colors, the landscapes, and of course, the
Mm-hmm.
music that you have to offer, which is the reason why you're here today. So I put together a couple of questions that I've gathered not only from my team, but also from other listeners from the past that knew you were coming on. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So you let me know when you're ready to go, and we'll kick this thing off.
Sweet. I'm all good to go.
All right, so let's do this. So I guess my first obvious question would be like, what inspired you to combine the what I call soothing sounds of the flute with Reiki energy in your music? And how do you believe, because I know from a personal feeling how it helps me, but how do you believe it enhances the healing experience for everyone listening today?
Yeah, so I'll start off with how I came to combine the two.
Please.
So both Reiki and Native American style flutes are two things that connect me to my mother in a lot of ways.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up, my mother was a Reiki master teacher. Some of my earliest memories are of her doing Reiki sessions for me.
So the
And then
apple
when
did not fall far from the tree, I see.
Absolutely, yeah. I remember as a child just feeling this incredible warmth and healing coming from her
Wow.
hands. And, she would teach me about crystals and essential oils and different homeopathic medicines and
Yeah, I'm
stuff
sure.
at a very young age. So yeah, and then when my family moved from the East Coast to Santa Fe, New Mexico, she really fell in love with the Native American culture and shamanic practices and things of that nature. But she went for a walk one evening and she was listening to Native American flute music, and she actually passed away on that walk.
Wow.
So
Sorry
she
to
was
hear
hit
that.
by a car. Thank you. And so, I lost my mother at a pretty young age. I was 8 years old when this happened. And so listening to Native American flute music as a child always gave me this connection to my mother that I felt was lost in certain moments.
Yeah, sure.
And then learning Reiki was another way of really coming back to finding some way of connecting with my mother in a way that felt really meaningful and actually felt like I could feel her energy. And Reiki gave me that. So in Reiki level 2 training, I learned about this technique called kokiho, which is a Japanese form of it's a technique
Hmm.
called healing with the breath. So in Reiki, we have Reiki symbols that we use.
Yeah.
And the kokiho method is you're drawing the Reiki symbols on the roof of your mouth with your tongue.
Okay.
Then you can blow the Reiki energy onto a specific area within the context of a treatment. So I started experimenting with, I wonder what would happen if I did that while I was playing Native American
Right.
style
Right.
flutes. And that's
Wow.
where the whole idea of Reiki infused flute music came from.
Well, man, first of all, my heart goes out to you, man. That's kind of a beautiful yet bittersweet story. Somebody who introduced you to this beautiful world of healing and then losing her simultaneously while she's absorbing this music. So I can't imagine what you're feeling. Although, on some level of empathy, I just lost my dad to COVID, and my dad introduced me to music. He's the one that put the camera in my hand. Like, he essentially introduced me to the whole art world. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. So believe me, there is a huge sense of compassion that I have for that story. And again, sorry for your loss. But you know what? At the same time, as you all know, or most of you listening, and of course, Zach, beautiful energy never dies. I continue to talk to my dad daily, and I keep close to him by creating, just as you've mastered the flute and the art forms that she instilled in you at a young age, which I can only imagine how beneficial it's been for you. Unfortunately, at her loss, at the expense of that, but nonetheless, you're still improving so many lives around the world. So thank you for that, and thank you for being so transparent, because that's tough to share. I know it's still tough till this day for me to share stuff like that. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is that I recognize that I wouldn't be the person I am today
Right.
doing the things that I'm doing if I didn't have this experience. So, it's one of those things where I can feel like I still feel my mom,
Mm,
kind of working with me. And it's like every time I play the flute, I connect with her energy. And that's one of the reasons, like, sharing in this way is just as
yeah.
much about my own personal healing journey
Yeah.
as it is about sharing with
It's kind
others.
of
And that's one
therapeutic
of
for
the
me, right? Isn't it the same for you? I mean, it truly is.
absolutely.
Like, I
It's,
really
yeah,
boast about my dad. I get happy. People are like, wow, but aren't you sad? I'm like, yes, but you're missing the whole point. I could still continue his legacy through my teachings and through my creative, prowess and understanding of what has made me who I am today because of, my dad. So it's a beautiful story, man. Um,
thank you, man.
I guess we could segue into the next question, which was I want to talk about a memorable experience. Not that that isn't memorable, of course, but something along the lines of the like a testimonial or multiple testimonials from people who have benefited from your work because of what your amazing and beautiful mom have gifted and instilled in you. How did you impact their lives and their well-being, and of course their state of mind? Do you have any stories that you could share with us? So I do this deliberately because I want my audience to really embrace this. I'm really
Hmm.
passionate and adamant. So I'm so content that this meeting or this encounter came at a time where, it's kind of like I need it the most, which is why I call it a serendipitous moment. So please share any of these stories with me and the listeners.
Absolutely. So, just to be clear, stories of people in my audience that have benefited from what I'm sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just anything random that you can
Cool.
remember. There's always those one stories. Well, I remember this one person who actually,
Yeah. So I have a couple ones that come to mind that are actually really perfect because they
Yeah,
fall in line with what we were just talking about.
yeah.
One happened last year where there was a woman that commented on one of my videos
Right.
that her mother was in hospice, was nearing the end of her life journey.
Mm,
And she would put on some of my music, some of my videos, and listen to it with her mother. And when she thought that her mother was asleep, she would turn the music off, and her mother would wake up, say, "Please don't turn it off. It brings me such deep peace." And then a couple weeks later, I had posted a video that said, "When you close your eyes, where do these sounds take you?" And she commented again that she was listening to that video with her mother that morning, and her mother passed away during that experience, and that it was this really beautiful experience for her and her mother and my music. And so it was really impactful for me to know that my mother passed away listening to the sounds of Native American style flute. And then this person's mother passed away listening to the Native American style flute
yeah.
sounds that I was sharing.
Wow.
Um,
Not a
and so,
coincidence, man.
right. And so my music just became a really significant piece within this person's life, and it's kind of like when you hear a song that might take you back 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
My music is going to be something that for this individual,
Mm.
whenever they hear it, it's going to remind them of their mother. And I
Well,
think that that's a
listen,
really
our
special
emotions
thing.
are a record of the past. Now, you couple that with audio, that's a double, a double power that's hitting you at the same time. So I can completely relate to that. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so that was one really cool experience for me. A couple months after that, I had a woman reach out on one of my lives and said that she was listening to my music all throughout her delivery of her baby through labor. And so it was really interesting for me to reflect on, here is another person that their like the first thing their child heard coming into the world was my music. And so it was this really cool reflection of, here's my music helping to facilitate somebody transitioning out of this
Sure,
world,
sure.
and then here it is helping to support somebody coming into this world.
That's incredible.
And then just, thousands of comments and messages from people just sharing about how it helps them in their daily life. um, and it's really blown my mind to see the feedback that people are sharing surrounding this.
I mean, it
uh,
doesn't
so yeah.
surprise me, though. It really, really does. And I think that everyone on this planet at some point or another should at least take 10 minutes and listen. Native American culture is something for me that has always been fascinating. The colors, the geographical area, and they've been through some difficult times, obviously. But the music, that style that has generated throughout the years, and how they incorporate the instruments that they do, and the chanting, it really is a beautiful art form as a whole. And what you've done is taken that culture, summed it up with this amazing skill, with the flute, because you've mastered that instrument to the point where anything you could sing. You could sing, White Snake, Here I Go Again. It still sound amazing, right? So I just think that it's amazing how you've combined culture and society and music and energy and embodied it into this one particular piece, or pieces for that matter, that you've created over the years. And so it's no surprise that it helps people, because it does. I literally listened to your pieces just now as I'm editing photographs, or I'm on the couch right now just working on stuff, because it doesn't impose. It's just this amazing ambience. You light a
Yeah.
candle, you meditate, you doze off, whatever it is that you need to do. I think the music itself just assists you in this state of relaxation that I want everybody to experience, more than once in their life. Hopefully they'll implement it in their daily routines. As I alluded to before, it has significantly helped me manifest some of the most incredible accolades of my life, because, and I know you're going to agree with me, the brain itself has over 60,000 thoughts a day. We are so distracted. There is so much noise going on in the world. And when you could take 10 minutes to just reflect and connect to your own source, and enjoy ambient music, or whatever it is that you do in silence. I prefer, utilizing and implementing the sounds, of course. I may be a little biased because I'm a musician, but here, there you have it. But I think it's amazing what you're doing and what you're going to continue to do. And toward the end, I'm going to ask you what's going on in your life. But let's segue into the third question. And thanks for sharing these stories. Again, it doesn't
Of course.
surprise me. Now, it's obvious for me. I get really, really excited when I talk about this, which means that music often has the power to evoke emotions, right? You and I both know that. How do you use your music to create specific emotional states, or support the mindfulness and the relaxation during Reiki healing sessions? It's one thing I've never had. I shouldn't say I haven't had a Reiki session, but I never really, let's just say, paid attention to it. I had the session, I just let go, but now I'm talking to someone who actually does it, and I can actually ask you these more intimate questions. And that's part
Absolutely.
one. And what piece of advice can you offer to my audience, especially those pursuing similar musical passions, just like yours, who want to incorporate and utilize music for healing?
Yeah, so I've been practicing Reiki and massage therapy for over a decade now, about
Yeah.
11 years. And for me, one of the biggest things that I always notice contributing to the healing and
Right.
to the state of being of my clients and
Mm,
even myself was the music that was playing in the room. It's kind of like the music is the third person within the room.
right.
And rather than just putting on something for the sake of having like relaxing music, you can actually use specific frequencies to help
Yeah.
facilitate the healing within the session that you're doing.
Right. Right.
So I started experimenting first with like different frequencies for specific chakras. And I learned in my Reiki training that specific musical notes or keys correspond with specific chakras or energy centers. Each of the energy centers relate to different emotions, relate to different organs within the body, different endocrine glands.
Yeah.
Chakra, they go pretty deep, and there's a lot of information that you
Yes,
could
they
dive
do.
into with that.
I try to keep
But I
mine in
started
alignment all the time. So believe me, I know.
totally. So, my intention for creating the music that I do is actually to help facilitate the healing that I was doing in individual sessions with people,
Mm,
which to this day I still do around 20 to 30 hours a week of
wow.
sessions one on one with clients.
Wow.
So, the music that I create has helped significantly in if I'm working with somebody that's working through a root chakra issue, which is pretty common
Yeah.
amongst most people. I'll put on a song that I recorded in the key of C to create this harmonic sort of energy to help balance the center, in addition to the work that I'm doing hands on with this person. The music then acts as like a third healer within the room.
Oh, that's amazing.
So,
It's always, for me, it's always my nervous system that's out of whack, my lower nervous system. I know my healer always uses a certain frequency in her music as well that she plays. She's like, just sit back. We really need to target your nerves. You're like, your chest is a mess. You're tight. You're stressed out. So, till this day, to me, it's fascinating how they can, or how people like yourselves can just tell. It's truly fascinating because we are all energy, and most people don't understand it. If you put your hand under a microscope, it's energy. So it's no
right,
wonder why we try to tune into these frequencies. And so many of the gurus out there that talk about manifesting things. It's like listening to a radio station on static. You got to fine tune that radio station for the information to be transmitted clearly. So it's the same thing that we need to do in our daily lives, and keeping our chakras in alignment, keeping our temperament, at bay, and of course, procedures like yourself, Reiki and healing and meditation. In my opinion, are imperative. So, again, I can't stress how adamant I am about listening to you and these stories and how you incorporate music and healing to assist people on their difficult journeys at the most difficult times. 'Cause let's face it, the past 3 years for me have been brutal with Hurricane Ida. I lost everything. So you want to talk about stress and losing my dad and the pandemic, which crushed our entertainment careers. So needless to
right.
say, somebody like you in my life that came in, at last minute, it's not a coincidence because, great energy attracts, good people with good energy. I've always believed in whatever sector of life, whatever career you have, good energy will always gravitate to you. So obviously, again, there's no surprise why I have you on the show today. But go ahead, man,
Yeah,
continue,
I wanted to speak into one thing that I heard you say, which,
please.
from my perspective, energy is our very first language. It's everybody's first language.
Mm,
Before we learn how to communicate through a specific language that we're taught,
man.
we understand the world through energy. So when we're small babies, that's our language. That's how we communicate. That's how we know if we're safe. That's how we know what's going on around us. And so, on some level, everybody has the ability to learn how to listen, because that's really the key, is listening. It's a deep listening to be able to perceive energy.
Yeah.
But then you can kind of scan and you'll notice different sensations as you do that. And that's energetic feedback. Oftentimes we're not taught how to listen to these things. So we ignore a lot of it. But
Yeah.
when you practice something like Reiki or body work, you develop this deep sense of listening. And I try to translate that into my music as well. So whenever I play music, I never plan it. I never know what I'm going to do. I just pick up the instrument and try to just be that channel and just listen and just allow whatever wants to come through
Oh
in that
wow.
moment to come through.
That's interesting. Let me
Um,
interject real quick because this is pretty interesting for me. I'm just curious. So when you're recording, let's say you're putting together an album or a formal piece of music, I mean, do your sensations go nuts? Can you literally sit down and just record a 2 minute piece and be like, oh no, I'm getting something else coming in here. No, I got to lay this down. I got to record it. Like, what's your recording process? Because that must be insane, or maybe not. I don't know.
it's like, so it's actually, funny enough, worked out really well.
Right.
Typically what happens, man, is I'll get in there and whatever I'm listening to that's inspiring me,
Right.
I just press record, and it's just like,
Wow.
so many of my songs have been a one and done sort of situation where
That's
it was like I
amazing.
recorded it and then I knew I was done at a certain point, and then I went back and listened. I was like, that's perfect, you
He's like
know?
the Frank Sinatra of
Um
Reiki music. That's great, man. One and done. I just had to ask because somebody of that talent and that sensitivity, like how can you focus on one thing and not get these signals or other ideas that come just rolling in simultaneously at the last minute? And I know it must be overwhelming sometimes. So appreciate you
It's
answering that.
kinda like meditation, I'm
Yeah,
sure that you've experienced when you sit for meditation, you
yeah.
get bombarded by all
Oh
these
yeah,
different thoughts and
yeah.
everything.
I
The
do.
practice of meditation is like learning to observe all those different things
Right,
and then still bringing yourself to this place of awareness of those things as opposed to identifying as
right.
these things, right?
I
So it's the
do.
same thing in the process of
I have
creating
to
music.
I have to implement the whole catch and release philosophy. I hear a distraction, I just embrace it. Okay, you're there, just go away. I know you're there. And then something else comes creeping in. Especially when you live in urban cities, you get fire trucks, you get sirens, you get people laughing, you get, cheering from games. There's so many distractions. But after a
Mhm.
while, repeatedly doing it, you get so accustomed to it, and you look back, you start reflecting, like, wow, I'm actually getting pretty good at this thing. I'm not getting distracted. And they say you should be able to meditate at 12 o'clock midday in Times Square, like full of people, and not have an issue, segregating your
Yeah.
thoughts from whatever the ambience is, screaming in your ear from left and right. So yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I guess my last question, I told you this would be quick and painless, man. With the title of the show called Mojo for Musicians, it's the signature question, which I love asking because I get so many incredibly detailed versions of why they do things. So, what is your mojo? Why do you continue to do what you do to create these beautiful pieces of music, to keep healing people? I mean, you would think it's an obvious answer, but there are so many underlying reasons why, and that's why I'm asking you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think that's a great question. And I think part of it goes back to something I said earlier, which was like, sharing in this way and doing this is just as therapeutic for me as it is for everybody else.
Yeah,
Like, it's such a deep part of my self care practice to do this. And it's such a blessing to me that this practice that I do for myself primarily also reverberates out and ends up helping thousands of other people,
yeah,
And
absolutely.
so the reason I continue sharing in this way is because like, truly, my soul needs that. My soul needs to share in this way. And then also, like, hearing how sharing in this way helps so many other people in ways that I often don't even see. I see
Right, right.
comments, I see messages, but it's like you can only communicate so much in text boxes on a screen.
Of course.
Um, and so, I've been able to see that it's really touched so many different lives in deep ways. And so that in itself is a motivation for me to continue doing this,
Yeah.
seeing that like this is truly helping people in deep ways. And it's important to continue
Not
sharing in
to
this way.
mention, and it's just so gratifying, isn't it? Because, like you, I've heard stories, I've had people email me, and I don't do the type of work that you do. I'm just an orator and I'm a singer, I'm a singer songwriter. I've had messages come in that saying, Manny, you saved my life. You saved my daughter's life. Or, so many things could have went wrong had they not met you, the person who read your post or listened to this, specific piece of music that you created. So I can only imagine, you must be on a different level because this is really targeting some sensitive emotions and feelings and energies of people. Whereas, with respect to what I do, people could only get to know me from a distance unless, of course, I'm shaking your hand, which is quite fascinating. But at the end of the day, it's the same result. You're curing, you're helping, you're assisting, you're uplifting, whatever adjective you want to implement right now as I'm explaining this. It's just pretty fascinating. And again, I'm honored to have you on the show. I even feel uplifted myself. Maybe you're just sending me some energy frequencies over this, interview. But I completely agree with you. It is gratifying. And just, I know you're going to continue to do it. We need more
Mhm.
people like you in the world. I know I do. I can't do this by myself, and sometimes I don't want to
Well,
hear
and
my own voice.
that's kind of the part B to your question
Yeah,
is, so if you really look at social media right now, every time you go on, we're really bombarded with a lot of things that really trigger the nervous system that really put us in this state of disarray, right?
undoubtedly
So I
so. Yeah.
believe, especially now, it's so important to also be like pumping out that content that's going to help raise a person's
Yes.
vibration, that's going to take them into this deep, relaxed, healing space within themselves.
Right.
We have to counteract all of the negativity that we encounter
Mm.
by putting out this positivity. And so I think it's really important for all of us healers. It's super simple to record a 60-second video and share it. And you have no idea how that might impact somebody's life.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for all of us that have these skills and these talents to find some way to share.
100%.
So,
It really doesn't. And nowadays, with the technology and the advent of these phones that have more technology than any space shuttle ever, built in history, it really does. It's very simple to put together some sort of a quick reel or a quick, micro content explaining the benefits of doing whatever it is that you're trying to help others do. I agree with you. I really do. It's one of those things where I think we need to make time to do that. I know I myself have been a culprit. You get so sidetracked with so many of the demands and deadlines that you have in your daily routine. But I'm making it a point this year to share as much as my career has afforded me with respect to successes and the highs and the lows, but what I did to get through those difficult moments. And
mm,
especially now, evidenced by what's going on in the world, in Israel and what's going on in Russia and
yeah,
Ukraine. It's like, I think about it. I'm like, have we not learned anything? We're I'm really trying to raise the vibration by doing good, by offsetting the negativity. And that's why I put together these type of shows. I feel like it's my responsibility to compile as much information that I possibly can with the right people to get these messages out, to start informing that there is another way of thinking in this world.
right.
So, thanks so much for your time. And before we go, is there anything else that you want to plug, that you want to advertise? This is all yours. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so the most recent project that I've been sinking my teeth into is something that I call Flute School.
Mm.
So, Flute School is an online community that I've created to teach people how to play Native American style flutes,
Oh, wow.
which is the type of flutes that I play. So, we opened that about 2 months ago, and we have about 38 students so far within the community,
Awesome.
and that's continuing to grow. So, if anybody's interested in learning how to play Native American style flutes, send me a message, reach out, and we can talk about flute school.
That's
So
awesome.
that's
Hell,
my
I might
only
even
plug.
take you up on that. Not like I need one more thing on my plate, but I feel compelled, especially, after listening to the stuff that you've been putting out there. So, Zach, listen, brother,
Right.
much love to you. So grateful for your time. Thank you for being so transparent, for, sharing your insights and knowledge and experience. And please, guys, if you don't know Zach, now you do, go follow him. How can we find you on social media, brother?
Yeah. So TikTok and Instagram is at Zach the Reiki Guy. YouTube, Zach the Reiki Guy. You can find my music, Spotify, iTunes under Zachariah Grace. You can also just go to my website, zachthereikiguy.com, and it's got links to all these different things as well.
Nice. And you get lost. I was on your TikTok the other day. I just let every reel play. You know, when I looked up the clock, I'm like, oh my God, shit, I've been in here for almost 45 minutes. I better stop this. I'm not going to get anything done, man. I was relaxed. You know, don't get me wrong. I was extremely relaxed, but I was so, I should say, happily distracted, man. But anyway, Zach, thanks so much.
It's like a portal, man. Yeah.
Exactly.
You're welcome, brother. Thank you so much for...
Appreciate you, man. Thank you. I'll talk to you real soon. Keep shining your light, brother. Live to inspire, man.
All right. Take care, brother.
Be well.
This has been a Mojo for Musicians podcast. If you're a musician, industry professional, or a voice with a powerful message and wanting to share your mojo and stories of success with our listeners, or simply share some feedback on today's episode, we'd love to hear from you. So send us an email at info@mannycabo.com. As always, much love and peace. Live to inspire. Thanks for listening.